So what happens when they let go? I'm going to talk a little bit about withdrawal and then give you like a 5-minute break to go to the bathroom and stuff. This is really difficult. Withdrawing from an addictive relationship for some people is probably the hardest thing they'll ever go through. There are a lot of studies that have been released. There's one they did a few years ago at Harvard that showed that love addiction and meth addiction were the 2 hardest withdrawals to go through. We know it because we see it every day with the women that show up at Five Sisters Ranch. It is absolutely incredible to be able to walk through withdrawal. It's really, really hard, though, to make the decision to go into withdrawal. This is usually what happens. Usually what happens is that someone will go into a therapist, say, for example, and they'll tell them this crazy, crazy story filled with drama. You know, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe what's happened. He did this to me. He did that to me. And then this happened, and then that happened. And what do I do? And how do I keep him? And how do I make it so he doesn't go away? And the poor therapist is just thinking, you need to stop it, and you need to get out of this relationship. But if they're a good therapist, they're not going to tell you that. But they're probably going to suggest that the relationship is not healthy for you, right? Have you ever gone in and talked to someone about a relationship that's not healthy? They're going to tell you that. Well, are you going to leave the relationship? No. Why? Why do love addicts not leave? Because if you ask someone to leave, it's like cutting off one arm. If they leave, it's like they're going to cut off an arm and have one arm. If they're thrown into withdrawal and the person they're in relationship with abandons them, it's like cutting off 2 arms. Either way, it's painful because it triggers those abandonment wounds of the child. The avoidant attachment. If you were abandoned as a child, even when somebody leaves you, or you were abused as a child, or there's some kind of big trauma in your story, chances are you're not going to be able to leave because in the leaving, it feels harder than staying. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it's the truth. It's what we see all the time. Especially now with all the studies that come out, that have been out and are out now about the withdrawal process, it's really hard to do it on your own. So if you're trying to get out of a bad relationship and you're finding that you can't, please know you're not crazy. And there's probably something in your storyline that's keeping you engaged in that relationship. And I really encourage you to talk with someone about that, somebody who really understands love addiction, so that you can figure out how to go. And I'll tell you how to go. If you get to prepare for withdrawal and work toward leaving a relationship, chances are you'll stay out of it. Because the first thing you would do is you'd want to identify the behavior. So there's probably maybe a few of you here tonight that will leave here understanding love addiction a little bit more. I hope. If you don't, then I'm really a terrible speaker. So if you understand the love addiction, then you start to understand, wow, it's not just me. So what does that do? That dissipates the shame. You start believing in yourself that you can actually leave this relationship. Then you need to get some support. You've got to have support. You cannot do it alone. How many of you have been affected by drug addiction in your families or alcoholism, right? Can you raise your hands high? Okay, a lot of you, right? We talk about drug addiction a lot because that's easy, because it's about the drug. It's not about relationships. When we start pulling people in and talking about relationships, it's really challenging because we start talking about people that we love and we don't want to hurt them. You need to have support. You wouldn't ask somebody to get off meth without support. So then you want to get support. Then you want to learn to be the observer. Like, learn how to recognize yourself in the relationship. Start to see how you're feeling when things are wrong and things are bad and when they leave you. Because that will help you develop a muscle to leave. Oh, wow, it really is bad. I can't believe this. Keep a journal. I always have women keep journals. You know, write 3 paragraphs every day about that relationship. And then when I meet with them the next week and they show me what they've written and they read it, they can see the insanity. so they can get to a place where they can choose to leave. Because if you tell them to leave, they're not going to leave. They've got to believe in themselves enough where they're going to leave. Then you help them identify the pain body. When you leave, what is that going to trigger? And trust me, there's always a trigger there. There's always something. If it's hysterical, it's historical every single time. There'll be something in their storyline that they can identify. And when they start talking about that, that's the issue. The issue isn't this guy or this girl that they're trying to get out of a relationship with. Then they can set bottom lines to provide safety. So they haven't left the relationship yet. And see how prepared they are? They're much more prepared to leave the relationship. Then they can decide to leave the relationship. And if they leave the relationship, just like the drugs, it's abstinent, gone, done, can't go back. And that's when they really need the support, because it's hard not to go back. If you're thrown into withdrawal, you don't have much choice, do you? You go right into that pain, right into the hot bath. It's very, very painful. Then you can identify the behavior, then get a support, then set bottom lines, and hopefully you'll be able to be abstinent from going back. But truthfully speaking, when you're thrown into withdrawal, the chances of you going back are much greater, much, much greater. When you choose withdrawal, typically you have a better chance of staying out of the relationship.